What's the matter with you? This is Smart.
Maxie.
Maxie. Darling. Doors slam shut behind him. One by one. He reaches for the phone. It's a shoe. That moment almost didn't make it to air. That shoe is in the Smithsonian now. And the catchphrase you know by heart. Nobody wrote it. These are 15 facts about Get Smart, 1965 to 1970, that will completely change what you thought you knew. 5 seasons, 138 episodes, created by Mel Brooks and Buck Henry, and buried inside this show are facts that even the biggest fans have never heard. Stay until the very end. I have a bonus fact waiting there. It is the most quietly emotional story connected to this entire show. Almost nobody knows it, so please don't leave early. Before we go any further, drop a comment right now. Tell me, Team Control or Team KAOS. And be honest, because some of you secretly respect Siegfried a little too much. Tell me, I read every single one. Now, let's get into it. Fact 1. Here's something that should bother you. That corridor, those doors, the opening sequence you've watched 100 times. NBC executives wanted to cut it before the show ever aired. Too long, they said, too self-indulgent, too expensive. Mel Brooks had to fight for it personally. His argument was simple. That sequence wasn't just a gag. It was the whole show in one image. A man walking with total confidence into a world that keeps slamming doors in his face. Brooks won the argument. You've been watching those doors ever since. It's been parroted and recreated more times than anyone has counted. And it almost ended up on a cutting room floor. Fact 2. You probably assumed the shoe phone was just a hollow prop. It wasn't. The production team built a real functioning telephone handset into a real shoe. During press events, Don Adams held it to his ear and conducted actual conversations. But here's the part that genuinely blows my mind. Motorola engineers years later cited the shoe phone. It was part of how people imagined portable communication. A comedy prop helped shape the mental picture of what a phone could be. That shoe is in the Smithsonian now. A sight gag invented in 1965 is a piece of permanent American history. This is Smart. Maxwell Smart, Agent 86. Hello, Chief Max. What's up? KAOS, eh? Yes, sir. I'll be right over. Fact 3. You've laughed at the cone of silence your whole life. That ridiculous dome. The one that makes it impossible for Smart and the Chief to hear each other. You probably thought it was just absurdist comedy. It wasn't. Buck Henry confirmed it directly in multiple interviews. It was a surgical political satire aimed at the United States government. The message was precise. The systems built to ensure security create the most chaos. Government officials reportedly watched the show. Some of them found it uncomfortably accurate. They laughed, and then they went a little quiet. Fact 4. Nobody planned it. Nobody wrote it. Don Adams threw out that phrase during an early table read. 2 fingers barely a millimeter apart.
Missed it by that much.
The writers kept it. Then they started writing it in deliberately. Adams varied the gesture every time, just slightly. That kept it fresh no matter how many times it appeared. By the final season, it had shown up in speeches, films, and newspaper columns. One spontaneous accident became the permanent signature of an entire show. What makes it wilder? The writers never once tried to take credit for it because they couldn't. Fact 5.
I want you to think about something.
When did you first say "would you believe"? Because I'll bet you didn't say it as a Get Smart reference. You just said it as a phrase. Within 18 months of the show's premiere, it had entered everyday American speech. No reference to the show required at all. Johnny Carson used it. Politicians used it. It showed up in headlines. Linguists called it a rare case of scripted dialogue losing its source entirely. Some people who said it every day had never watched a single episode. That is cultural penetration most writers only ever dream about.
Who is that?
George Robinson, KAOS agent, Hawaiian branch. It's a fabulous disguise. I saw through it in only 1 minute. Would you believe it? 1 minute. I find that very difficult to believe. Would you believe 2 minutes? Fact 6. ABC rejected Get Smart. That's where this whole story actually starts. Mel Brooks and Buck Henry spent almost a year building the show, The characters, the world, the entire concept, and ABC passed on it, called it too niche. The two men were this close to shelving it entirely. Then one NBC executive, Grant Tinker, said, "Yes, just one person, one decision." Every catchphrase, every gadget, every door slam, all of it nearly never happened. The whole legacy of Get Smart came down to one yes from one person who took a chance. Fact 7. Don Adams didn't build Maxwell Smart for television. Smart already existed. Adams had been performing a near-identical character in his nightclub stand-up act for years. Same voice, same cadence, same delusional confidence. When he walked into the audition, producers weren't really casting an actor. They were licensing a character Adams had already perfected in front of real audiences every single night on stage in Vegas. Maxwell Smart didn't come from a writer's room. He came from a lounge act that nobody outside the room had ever seen. He'd been waiting to be discovered for years. Package for Miss Winston. "Oh, thank you. 99, what is it, Max? Come here. What's the matter? What's the matter, Max? Don't make a move. Don't make a sound." Fact 8. Before the shoe phone, before the catchphrases, Don Adams was a Marine. He survived the Battle of Guadalcanal, one of the most brutal campaigns of the Second World War. He contracted cerebral malaria. He was medically discharged. He turned to comedy partly to process what he'd seen and survived. I want you to hold that for a moment. The man who made an entire generation laugh at incompetence had survived something most of us will never come close to. The laughs always had something underneath them, something real, something he never talked about on screen. Fact 9. Don Adams was born Donald James Yarmy. He changed it early. He decided Yarmy wasn't going to work in show business. So, he built a new identity carefully before anyone was watching. Think about the irony in that. Maxwell Smart cannot control anything around him. He stumbles. He blunders. He gets things spectacularly wrong every week. But the man playing him, he had engineered every detail of his own public persona long before a camera ever pointed at him. Smart bumbled, Adams planned. The most famous accidental character in television history was played by one of the most deliberately constructed performers in it. Fact 10. Don Adams won the Emmy for Outstanding Performance by an Actor in a Comedy in 1967, then 1968, then 1969. 3 consecutive years against the best comedy talent in American television. Think about what that means. Maxwell Smart is a character who fails constantly, completely, spectacularly. Every plan collapses, every mission goes sideways. And the television industry honored him for it 3 years in a row, perfecting the art of failure. That is genuinely one of the hardest things you can do in comedy. And Adams did it better than anyone on television. Sorry, Fong. It's quick. The KAOS is broadcasting. We will offer a practical demonstration of the Enmo's enormous power at 4 o'clock this afternoon in full view of downtown Manhattan. Fact 11. In 1983, Don Adams voiced Inspector Gadget. I want you to think about that character for a moment. A detective perpetually overconfident, perpetually failing, surrounded by people far more capable than him. Sound familiar? Adams brought Maxwell Smart entirely. The voice, the timing, the unshakable, delusional self-assurance. The show ran for 86 episodes. An entire generation of children grew up on that character. None of them knew where it came from. They were watching Maxwell Smart. They just didn't know his name. The character outlived the original show by 2 decades through a cartoon that never admitted what it actually was. Fact 12. Mike Myers has said it directly. Austin Powers was influenced by Get Smart, the architecture of the whole thing. The bumbling hero who doesn't know he's bumbling, the more capable female partner, the villain who cares too much about losing. Myers rebuilt it for his own generation, but the blueprint was already there. Every spy parody that came after 1965 traces its lineage back to this show. Every single one is a descendant of that corridor and that shoe. Get Smart didn't just define a genre. It built the mold every spy comedy since has poured itself into. These things never work. Your time is up. Well, I'm afraid I have nothing to tell you, Mr. Craw. Then, for my first torture, please remove your shoes. Fact 13. Get Smart never won the Emmy for Outstanding Comedy Series, not once in any year. Don Adams won 3 consecutive individual Emmys for this show. The show defined an entire genre. It launched catchphrases into permanent vocabulary. And the Television Academy decided every single year it was eligible that it was not the best comedy on television. The show that changed everything never got to hold the award that said so. You want one line that perfectly sums up the whole show?
Missed it by that much.
Fact 14. Without Get Smart, the producers might not exist. That is not speculation. The commercial success of this show gave Mel Brooks the credibility to finance his debut film. Studios that had previously dismissed him suddenly took his calls. The producers came out in 1967 while the show was still on air. It won Brooks an Academy Award. It launched one of the greatest comedy careers in Hollywood history. That Oscar exists because a spy comedy about a man who never got anything right gave its creator the credibility to make something that did. And I happen to know that at this very minute, 7 Coast Guard colors are converging on this boat. Would you believe it?
7.
I find that pretty hard to believe. Fact 15. The last episode of Get Smart aired on May 26, 1970. There was no ceremony, no announcement, no acknowledgement that 5 years and 138 episodes were coming to an end. The show was canceled mid-season. The final episode in the broadcast order was just the final episode. It wasn't written as a goodbye. It didn't function as one. Maxwell Smart and 99 and the Chief appeared one last time. Then they were gone. No fanfare, no door slam, just silence. For a show watched by tens of millions, the ending was accidental and almost unbearably ordinary. Exactly the kind of ending Maxwell Smart would have had. Before the bonus, if stories like this are your thing, subscribe. I have a full episode on another 1960s legend coming soon. Stories just like these. Ones you've never heard. One click, you won't miss it. 19 years after Get Smart ended without ceremony, something beautiful happened. A TV movie called Get Smart Again reunited most of the original cast, including Barbara Feldon, who had turned down every previous chance to revisit Agent 99. She said yes to this one. The production went back to the original spirit of the show. Audiences felt it immediately. Critics who had written off every revival called it a reminder of everything the original had done right. Cast members who hadn't worked together in almost 20 years described filming it as genuinely emotional. Some of them reportedly cried between takes. The show finally got its goodbye just 19 years late. Get Smart was never just a spy comedy. It was a show that made you feel safe. Safe to laugh at authority. Safe to root for the man who never quite got it right. The shoe phone is in the Smithsonian. The catchphrases are still in our vocabulary. And somewhere in the world right now, someone is discovering this show for the very first time. They're watching those doors slam shut. They're watching him pick up the phone. They have no idea what's about to hit them. That's the gift this show keeps giving. Missed it by that much, and it still got everything.